Have you ever stopped to truly consider how a nation, well, kickstarts its economy? Especially today, in our complex, interconnected world. It's rarely about these, grand high-tech leaps right from the get-go. Often the most powerful strategies actually begin with the seemingly simple, everyday things, the stuff we take for granted. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into exactly that, how foundational industries, specifically cleaning products and plastics, can become these unexpected engines for economic growth. And for national self-sufficiency, too. We'll look at a really interesting contemporary strategy unfolding in Rwanda. We'll place it within the context of Africa's major trade blocs. And then we'll draw some, frankly, surprising parallels from a historical case study way back in Turkey. Our mission here is to uncover the blueprint, really, for how nations build lasting prosperity, often piece by meticulous piece.
Yeah, and to guide us on this, we've pulled together a really comprehensive set of sources. We've got detailed trade data looking at plastics and cleaning products specifically for Rwanda, but also the wider African continent, and globally too. That covers 2013 right up to 2023. We'll be digging into a project plan for a new manufacturing school in Rwanda. It's dedicated precisely to these products, and we've got reports that really unpack the multi-layered economic synergy that's inherent in the cleaning products industry itself. It's quite something. Then for that historical angle, we'll consult original documents outlining Turkey's first five-year industrial plan. And we'll look at the objectives and, crucially, the trade figures of key African regional economic communities. Think FCFTA, COMESA, EAC. So it's a rich mix, really. Data, strategy, history, all pointing towards a fascinating story of development.
Okay, so let's unpack this idea of an industrialization pathway. Because when we think industrialization, maybe our minds jump straight to, I don't know, massive factories or cutting-edge tech. But our sources suggest there's actually a very deliberate, almost organic sequence involved. How does this pathway usually begin?
That's a really crucial distinction. One of the documents we looked at describes it as an industrialization weaving model. It really emphasizes this logical progression. The core idea is that for a country to develop something complex, let's say its agricultural machinery industry, it first needs a foundational industrial base. You can't just jump straight into making tractors, for instance. That requires existing iron processing, metalworking, assembly sectors. They have to be there first.
Right, you need the building blocks.
Exactly. The weaving model argues you start with readily achievable consumer goods, things that are broadly needed. So if cleaning products are identified as a core sector, that choice then naturally leads towards developing plastic products for packaging, plastic recycling. And from there, it can branch out to more complex industries like CNC machinery, that's computer numerical control, and other metalworking sectors needed for making molds, for example. This step-by-step approach means industrialization starts with products that meet immediate, widespread needs. It makes it achievable and impactful right away.
So it's about building those fundamental layers first, not trying to leapfrog directly to, say, advanced manufacturing. That makes a lot of sense, particularly for nations with maybe limited resources. And I noticed the sources mentioned something called a dripping incentive system for the state to use its finances efficiently. Could you maybe elaborate on that? What does that mean and why is it important?
Absolutely. The dripping incentive system, it's a pretty smart way for governments to maximize impact, especially when funds are tight. Instead of just broad, untargeted subsidies, which can be inefficient, it's about strategically channeling incentives. Things like focused tax breaks, specific subsidies, maybe preferential access to credit, but crucially, channeling them to very particular nascent industries, the ones you've identified as foundational.
And the dripping part.
The dripping metaphor suggests this sort of incremental approach. You provide initial, targeted support, just enough to get things going. That generates some momentum, which hopefully attracts further private investment. Then, as each stage of development becomes profitable, maybe self-sustaining, the state can adjust or redirect those incentives. Taper them off, perhaps. It's designed to create a kind of cascade effect. Early support for one sector triggers growth in related ones, and eventually you build up a more diversified industrial base.
That's a really clever approach to resource allocation. It underlines that economic growth isn't just random, is it? It's often this carefully choreographed dance. Strategic incentives, foundational steps. Now, let's zero in on one of those core sectors. Why cleaning products? I mean, it seems maybe a humble starting point. But our research report suggests there's a powerful economic secret hidden in this industry.
It really is fascinating. This report actually calls the cleaning products industry an economic synergy engine. And that metaphor, it's incredibly apt. It's not just a standalone sector producing soap or detergent. It actively feeds, develops, and even transforms a whole chain of other key industries. It creates this remarkable multiplier effect right across the economy.
Wow. So it's not just about, making a bottle of dish soap. It's about sparking a much broader industrial ecosystem.
Exactly. Let's break down how this engine actually works. First off, you've got the chemical industry. Cleaning products are fundamentally chemical formulations, right? Some quite sophisticated. So the demand for ingredients, things like surfactants, enzymes, bleaches, fragrances, preservatives, it pushes local chemical companies to innovate, to develop new molecules, refine their processes, maybe even explore greener, more sustainable raw materials, which is a huge area now. This directly fuels investment in R&D and specialized chemical engineering right there in the country.
So a growing local demand for, say, laundry detergent could literally spark a national chemical research boom. That's a much bigger impact than you might initially think. Okay, what about the bottles and tubs, the packaging side?
That leads straight into the plastic sector. Plastic is, well, completely indispensable for packaging these products. Think about all the bottles for shampoos, detergents usually made by blow molding, and then the more complex bits like caps, spray triggers. Those are often made by injection molding. The sheer need for these items drives really significant investment in plastic manufacturing capacity, in technology, and even in developing new polymers, maybe lighter, more functional, more recyclable. It fosters a robust domestic plastics industry.
And to make all those plastic parts and then fill the bottles, you need specific equipment, right? That doesn't just appear.
Precisely. And that brings in the machine, mold, and automation industry to produce those plastic packages efficiently, to design the intricate molds needed for caps and triggers, and then to fill and cap the cleaning products at scale. You need specialized machinery. This includes high-precision CNC machines for designing and processing the molds, and also automated filling lines, capping machines, packaging lines. So growth in cleaning products directly stimulates the machine tool sector, metalworking, even automation software development. This is where more advanced manufacturing skills really start to take root.
It just keeps branching out.
Yeah.
And it surely doesn't stop there, does it? I mean, the drive for better products, maybe more eco-friendly ones, that must push innovation too.
Absolutely. That's the R&D and innovation piece of the engine, the constant quest for more effective formulations, greener ingredients, sustainable packaging. It creates this continuous demand for research and development. And crucially, it fosters collaboration between local companies, universities, research institutes, working together on material science, biochemistry, even industrial design.
Okay, that's 4 major sectors stimulated already. Is there a fifth?
Yes, and it's increasingly important. With all this increased use of plastic packaging, you inevitably highlight the critical role of the recycling and circular economy sector. The industry's push, often driven by consumers and regulation too, for more recycled content in their packaging and for packaging designs that are actually recyclable, well, that accelerates the development of local recycling infrastructure. It drives investment in waste management solutions and potentially sparks entirely new business models focused on creating a circular economy for plastics.
What you've laid out there is, well, it's truly remarkable. It almost sounds too good to be true in a way. One product category driving so many diverse sectors.
Yeah.
Are there potential pitfalls here or dependencies a country needs to watch out for if they're banking on such a powerful synergy engine?
That's a really important question. Because while it is powerful, it's definitely not without its challenges. The initial capital investment, particularly for machinery and setting up quality production lines, can be significant. And establishing quality control standards that can actually compete with established international brands, that takes real dedication and expertise. Also, ensuring a consistent supply of raw materials is crucial. Some of those might still need to be imported, at least initially. You have to manage that supply chain carefully.
But the model itself pushes towards reducing those imports over time.
Exactly. That's the beauty of this synergy engine concept. Its inherent drive is towards import substitution as those domestic chemical, plastics, and machinery industries mature. So ideally, those external dependencies should lessen over time.
That cascading effect you described, it's incredibly powerful. It makes perfect sense now why a country like Rwanda would target such a sector. So, okay, let's dive into how they're actually putting this theory into practice on the ground.
Right. Rwanda has taken very concrete steps. They've initiated this project called a Manufacturing School for Plastic and Cleaning Products. It directly applies this whole industrialization pathway concept we've been discussing.
A manufacturing school. Tell us more about its objectives. It sounds like it's probably more than just straightforward vocational training.
Oh, it is. It's quite holistic, actually. The core objective is to train manufacturers and skilled labor in both the production and the sale of plastic and cleaning products, but with the ultimate goal of really fostering self-employment and entrepreneurial spirit among the students. It's about creating job creators, not just job seekers.
And the training itself.
The process is very hands-on. Students first get the theoretical manufacturing training, the basics, but then they move quickly into practical production experience. They essentially work like employees in a real manufacturing setup within the school. Then, in a second phase, they get practical sales experience out in the field. They learn about market dynamics, customer needs. And what's really innovative, I think, is that the school's financing is partly envisioned through the sale of the very products the students produce during their training.
That's an incredibly smart model. It creates a kind of self-sustaining educational ecosystem, doesn't it? What sort of products are they actually focusing on? It must be quite broad to cover all those synergy engine aspects we talked about.
It certainly is. The curriculum breadth is impressive. On the cleaning products side, the training covers 11 different types. Things like surface cleaners, bleach, dish detergents, liquid hand soap, glass cleaners, fabric softeners, lime removers, carpet shampoos, oil removers, grout cleaners, even cologne, actually. And then on the plastic side, the training covers plastic recycling, which is key plastic classification, handling scrap metal, and then the core processes, injection molding, including how to make crucial things like bottle caps, and blow molding for producing a whole range of containers, from 5-liter ones up to 30-liter bidons.
So they're really covering the whole chain, from the chemical formulation right through to the packaging, the recycling, and even hitting the streets to sell it. And are there clear benchmarks, targets for success?
Yes. The project documents lay out clear, phased targets. Short-term goals involve things like identifying potential industrial entrepreneurs, the future business owners, finding trainers, finding workers, setting up a vocational guidance department. Then the medium-term goals are more concrete. Selecting, say, 30 candidates, training them on maybe 6 core products to start, initiating those first sales from the school's production, and issuing proper vocational qualification certificates. And the long-term vision. That's about establishing contract manufacturing through the school, integrating successful graduates back into the school's operations, maybe as mentors or managers, and, really importantly, setting up a dedicated financing system specifically designed to help graduates launch their own businesses.
It's truly a comprehensive ground-up approach. This isn't just about creating jobs in the short term, is it? It's about building a skilled workforce, fostering local entrepreneurship, and ultimately creating a local economy that can tackle that broad base of domestic consumption, right down to the everyday stuff people need in their homes. So Rwanda is making this strategic investment in foundational industries, building internal capacity. But how does this, well, quite bold strategy fit into the wider economic picture of Africa, especially with the continent's dynamic and increasingly integrated trade blocs?
That's where looking at the trade data really paints a compelling picture and shows the opportunity. If we look at Rwanda's overall trade balance, say from 2013 to 2023, the country has historically faced a pretty significant import deficit. Now, its import-export coverage ratio, that's exports as a percentage of imports, that has improved considerably. It went from about 31% in 2013 up to nearly 62% in 2023. But there's still a substantial gap. Just looking at 2023 figures, Rwanda's exports were around $1.39 billion, but imports were $2.27 billion. That leaves an $870 million deficit.
Okay, and how much do plastics and cleaning products contribute to that deficit? Are they significant?
Oh, quite significantly. In 2023, Rwanda's plastics exports were tiny, just $1.71 million. Compare that to imports of $71.15 million. That results in a huge deficit in just that one category and a very, very low import-export coverage ratio of only 2.4%. Basically, they import almost everything they use. And for cleaning products, the situation is even more pronounced. Exports in 2023 were just $90,000, $0.09 million against imports of nearly $20 million. That gives an incredibly low coverage ratio of less than 0.5%, 0.45%. These figures clearly show this massive internal market that's currently being served almost entirely by imported goods.
Wow. So these deficits, they aren't just abstract numbers. They represent this huge unmet domestic demand demand that Rwanda's manufacturing school is aiming squarely at capturing.
Sure.
And presumably, beyond its own borders, Africa's regional trade blocs must offer massive potential markets too, right?
Precisely. Those deficits highlight the immediate local need, but the regional trade blocs provide this incredible pathway for expansion later on. First, you've got the big one, the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. This is hugely ambitious. It covers most of the 55 African Union members, aiming to create the world's largest free trade area. A key part is removing tariffs on 90% of goods. Now get this. In 2023, the total AFCFTA imports for cleaning products alone were $3.5 billion, and for plastics, $26.6 billion. Since Rwanda is a member, goods produced locally there could eventually reach a market of over 1 billion people, potentially without facing major tariff barriers. That drastically expands their export potential down the line.
A $3.5 billion market just for cleaning products within its CFTA. That's enormous.
Yeah.
What about the other blocks?
Then there's COMESA, the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa. This was established back in 1994. It aims for deep economic integration, a free trade area, ultimately a common market among its 21 member countries. In 2023, COMESA countries collectively imported $1.37 billion in cleaning products and $11.7 billion in plastics. Rwanda's membership here means potentially fewer non-tariff barriers, more harmonized trade policies across a big chunk of East and Southern Africa. So another huge potential market closer to home. And even closer is the East African Community, the EAC. Rwanda's a member here too, of course. The EAC promotes really close economic, social, political cooperation. They aspire to a customs union, common market monetary union, eventually even a political federation. In 2023, the EAC countries imported $539 million in cleaning products and $3.14 billion in plastics. Membership in the EAC offers perhaps the most immediate tariff-free access to Rwanda's closest neighbors. It's a natural first market for these burgeoning industries to target.
Wow, those aggregate figures, they're just striking. What this really reveals is this massive untapped market potential within Africa itself. So Rwanda's strategy isn't just about local production for local needs. It seems to be about strategically positioning itself to address this huge continent-wide demand, transforming from a heavy importer into potentially a key regional supplier. It's a very calculated play, isn't it? You know, this whole discussion, particularly the idea of state-led development, focusing on foundational industries to build economic independence, reduce that import dependency, it has a really powerful historical echo. Let's maybe cast our minds back almost a century to Turkey's experience.
Indeed it does. Turkey's first 5-year industrial plan, which they implemented between 1934 and 1938, offers a really fascinating and I think instructive parallel. It emerged from a pretty intense period. You had post-World War I recovery, the devastating global impact of the 1929 Great Depression hitting them hard, and also a very strong national desire for economic independence after years of significant foreign economic influence, particularly from European powers. So the country shifted policy towards what's often termed moderate statism. This meant significant government involvement in guiding and directing industrial development, but stopping short of, say, full nationalization of everything. The state took a leading role.
Okay, so the state played this central guiding role in reshaping the economy. What were the specific driving forces behind that particular plan? What were they trying to achieve?
The goals were very, very clear. Rapid industrialization and aggressive import substitution. Particularly for basic consumer goods, think textiles, paper, sugar, things they were importing in large quantities. This was a direct response to a persistent trade deficit that had really plagued Turkey in the years just before, from 1923 to 1929. And that deficit only got worse with the global economic crisis. The ambition was simple: produce domestically what you're currently buying from abroad.
And what principles guided their investment decisions? Did they have a kind of synergy engine thinking back then, even if they didn't call it that?
Well, they certainly had a strategic framework. The plan explicitly prioritized industrial facilities that could primarily use domestically produced raw materials. That was key. They also focused on industries that required significant capital investment and, for the time, advanced technology, which private enterprise might have struggled with alone. And crucially, the production capacities were designed specifically to meet internal consumption needs first. While they might not have used the term synergy engine, the focus on basic goods like textiles naturally created demand for related sectors: cotton growing, machinery repair, transportation, etc. And state-owned enterprises played an absolutely pivotal role in making it happen. Summerbank, for instance, became like the central headquarters of the industrial movement. It didn't just manage factories, it also provided crucial industrial credit and was involved in training skilled labor.
Can you give us some examples? What kind of projects did they actually undertake under this plan?
Of course. There were some really notable projects. Major textile factories were a big focus, like the ones in Kayseri and the Nizhly Bez, the Malachi cotton weaving factory, the Bursa Merinos woolen factory, plus the Gemlik silk weaving plant. Textiles were huge. They also established the İzmit paper factory, which was a milestone. It produced Turkey's first locally made paper in 1936, and the Paşabahçe glass factory, which is still famous today. Other state entities were also crucial. Bank focused on developing mining and energy resources. The Mineral Research and Exploration Institute, MTA, was set up to map the country's resource base. It was a really coordinated national effort.
It sounds like a massive undertaking. What was the ultimate impact? Did this ambitious plan actually achieve its goals?
By most accounts, the results were quite remarkable, especially given the global context. Between 1930 and 1937, Turkey managed to successfully shift from running that persistent trade deficit to actually achieving an export surplus. That's a major turnaround. Moreover, the gross national product, the GNP per capita, increased significantly. It went from about $47.5 in 1923 to $89 in 1938. That represents an impressive average annual growth rate of around 8%.
8% annual growth back then, during the Depression era.
Oh.
That's substantial. Were there challenges? Did everything go smoothly?
Oh, definitely not smoothly. There were challenges. Documents show delays in some projects and significant cost overruns. The initial plan budgeted around 44 million lira, but the final cost ended up being closer to 100 million lira, so it wasn't perfect execution. But despite those issues, the plan was largely seen as successful. It really did establish a robust industrial infrastructure where little existed before. And importantly, it helped create a skilled industrial workforce, laying a very strong foundation for the country's future development.
This historical example, it's really powerful, isn't it? What Turkey's strategic planning and their commitment to nurturing those foundational industries almost a century ago shows, it's a potent formula. By making those intentional investments in basic consumer goods industries, a nation can spark that cascading development, significantly cut its import dependency, and foster real self-reliance. Even when the global economy is in turmoil, it really is a testament to having a clear vision and executing deliberately. Well, what a journey we've taken today. All the way from the intricate details of trade data and these ambitious project plans in Rwanda, through the fascinating economic synergy of something as simple as cleaning products, to these surprising and I think really instructive historical echoes in Turkey's industrial past in the 1930s.
We've truly seen how these intentional decisions about which industries to prioritize first, how you train a dedicated workforce for them, and how you strategically leverage regional markets, how all that can set a really powerful trajectory towards economic independence, towards prosperity. It's a compelling testament, I think, to the idea that truly transformative change often begins with very focused, very fundamental steps, building blocks laid one upon another carefully.
And that really leads us to a final thought for you, the listener, to carry with you. Next time you pick up an everyday product, maybe a bottle of dish soap, maybe just a simple plastic container, consider the profound potential it holds. These items aren't just about utility, are they? They can actually be meticulously planned stepping stones to an entire nation's industrial future, fostering skilled labor, driving regional trade, and ultimately building economic self-sufficiency right from the ground up. It's a potent reminder, isn't it? That even the smallest, most mundane items in our daily lives often have a story of grand economic ambition hidden right behind them.